In this day and age, there are plenty of farming sims to indulge in, but it's gotten to the point where it's hard for me to even feel excited for every one of them. There's just too many, and not every single one of them has that special oomph that makes it a unique experience from all of the other farming sims on the market. But what if there was a farming sim similar to Stardew Valley? Hear me out, okay? But with a larger town, and each time you load a new game, it randomly selects one of them to be a serial killer. Well, if that sounds intriguing, I think you might really like this upcoming game that has the farming that we've all come to love, but with a sinister twist that spices things up a little bit. Hey, it's Denise, welcome to my humble abode. The quote I just mentioned is directly from Stardew-Like, one of the developers of a new game called Gray Seasons by Studio Perfect Garbage, where you can farm, fish, fight for your life, raise cattle, build a home, romance, and possibly even stop some murders. It's half farming sim, half murder mystery, and in your day-to-day, you farm as well as romance fellow townspeople while also snooping around in order to figure out which of the townspeople is the killer in each playthrough. Maybe you can even save some townspeople or, whoops, accidentally romance the killer. I'll be sharing some of the hot characters that have been released so far, features that make the game unique, the many inspirations for the game, and more. So let's get started. Now, I know what you're thinking, Denise, this doesn't sound very cozy. This in fact sounds a little spooky. And you're not wrong for thinking that, but I kind of think that's what makes it special. Despite how cute it looks, there's something that's a little off about Gray Seasons that diverges from the usual cozy farming sim, and that's 100% intentional. Gray Seasons is currently being developed by Nahil, and their studio Perfect Garbage. Their studio specialty is blending two different genres while playing to the strengths of both, and you can definitely see some unexpected combinations in Gray Seasons. And according to Sone, their goal as an indie game studio is always bring pre-existing elements from different genres and bring a new perspective to them. This is really interesting because there is no game like Gray Seasons out in the market right now besides like Among Us, where you basically have to figure out who the killer is, but with romantic undertones, with farming. That sounds like very interesting, and I'm very curious to see how that will develop over time. As a cozy gamer girly who's been playing cozy games non-stop lately, I've been itching for a game that yes has that cozy and wholesome aspect, but also has a depth that I crave in stories and characters. And sometimes I don't necessarily want a game where everybody's happy all the time. It feels very one note at times when everybody's happy. And like Nahil, one of the devs, has said, I think you can better appreciate the more cozy or wholesome moments when you have something stressful to compare them to. We want to give a lot of tonal differences in an interesting and story-driven way. That balance is going to be highly tuned, but also will be what makes the gameplay loop interesting and will give that kind of replay value that everyone's looking for. Now, I've already mentioned that romance and horror will be a factor in this darkly cozy game, right? But where does it all fit in, and when does the coziness aspect come in? According to the devs, there'll be plenty of horrifying moments, but there'll be also like these cozy elements as well, and neither will detract from the other. They also said that there's a really pleasant blend of enjoyable, softer content with these extreme feelings and emotions that players are going to find really fun. Right now, they're trying to go for like a 50-50 split between romance and horror, so players can really enjoy the life/dating sim elements with the more tense mystery adventures, with the hopes that nothing has to be sacrificed for the other to shine. I think what's really interesting about this game is the added romance factor, and while you're meeting people, getting to know them, and catching feelings, you also have to look out for these signs of malicious intent, because a serial killer is on the loose, and like, what if the person you like is the killer? Like, what happens then? It adds a layer of complexity to these relationships that I think will be interesting to explore if executed well. However, due to the complexity of having a different killer for each playthrough, I think the game will be a lot shorter because it's going to be difficult for the devs to keep the story straight and the personalities of each character consistent if the stories become too long or too complex. It also seems that farming will be included in the game, but it doesn't seem like it will be the highlight like in other games, since the devs seem to focus a lot more on the romance and murder mystery aspect. I think the game will be more akin to like a visual novel with a couple of farming functionalities added in. So what inspired Gray Seasons? Stardew Valley? Yes, but it's also heavily inspired by Harvest Moon Save the Homeland, which is different from other games in the OG Harvest Moon series because there's a time limit. Now, in Save the Homeland, as soon as you take over the family farm, you quickly learn that the village will be torn down and converted into a theme park in 1 year. This means that you, as the player, would have to talk to the villagers and follow all sorts of storylines with the villagers in order to save the village, which adds more stakes than the traditional cozy game, where time stakes are often highly discouraged. The devs love the idea of introducing stakes to a laid-back genre like farming sims, and that was why they were so excited to work on Gray Seasons. And though they want to target like existing farming sim players, they also want to reach an audience that usually are put off by more relaxed games with little to no stakes. Here's what they had to say about this. I think with live sims in general, there's often too much focus on the management sim aspect and not enough focus on the narrative aspect. Something we really want to do with Perfect Garbage was make a game where we could have this life and management sim aspect, but also cater to something that has a definitive end. Now, I do have to agree that a lot of times the focus is too much on the management and not enough focus is put on the narrative aspect of the game. And I do love story-based games with like a strong storyline where you can really follow as you're playing farming sort of game. I think a game that did it really well was Wildflowers. They balanced like the storytelling with the more farming and magical bits of the game, and it was just like a super enjoyable game. But I'm curious to see how Gray Seasons will handle the balance between management game and murder mystery as well as romance. Now, who can you romance in the game? So far, only 3 romanceable characters have been released so far on Perfect Garbage's TikTok page. Let's go ahead and check it out.
Introducing the local himbo, a character in our upcoming murder mystery farming sim. He's got a gorgeous smile, wide shoulders, and is an absolute giant of a man. But don't worry about his intimidating appearance. He's got that childhood best friend energy despite having just met you, and he's eager to help you out with farm duties and make your life here as easy as he can. Wouldn't it be unfortunate if you two got close and he turned out to be the killer? What more updates are coming up?
Now, what I'm really curious about this new himbo character is, if he's such a golden retriever character, why would he be a serial killer? What is going on and what is his motivation for that, really? Because, I don't know, like, if he's so sweet and nice, why?
This is a local doctor in town. She's kind and is always there to help you get back on your feet when you get hurt. But she's not just here to help patch you up when you get injured. She's actually hiding a secret. You should maybe try and investigate because it might just help you find the supernatural serial killer running around town.
So I was thinking that there was only going to be like male romanceable characters, but I'm really glad that there are some female characters as well. I'm hoping that there's like a more feminine presenting sort of character that's romanceable as well.
This is the store manager of S Mart, a character in our upcoming game. He's the gorgeous, disgruntled store clerk who suffers from light sensitivity and terrible migraines.
Like, maybe he's a vampire because he has light sensitivity? He looks like a vampire.
He's definitely more of a night owl. As you can imagine, it's not easy for him to deal with this, and the only way to make him feel better is to distract him. Fortunately, your visits lately to his store have done plenty to take his mind off things. I wonder how he feels about you. I better hope he's not the killer.
He's a little scary. I think out of all the characters that have been released so far, this store manager is the scariest looking one. But maybe he's a softie? Or maybe he's a zombie. I don't know. He could be anything, honestly.
Shame if your budding closeness was snuffed out like that.
So those are the 3 romanceable characters that have been released so far. It's a good mix so far. They're kind of like the regular old like farming sim tropes. We got the store manager, we got the doctor, we got, you know, a himbo who helps you with the farmings and stuff. Okay, we got that, but I'm curious to see if there's any more romanceable characters that something that's a little different from usual farming sims. The game as of right now is still very early on in development, which means that they don't even have a Steam page just yet. Nothing official has come out just yet, but I'll keep an eye out for you. Now, another thing to note is that the developer was never really a farming sim sort of person. They really enjoyed narrative-based games, and that's kind of like what drew them away from farming sim games, because a lot of farming sim, you know, like Harvest Moon, it's not always really focused on the storyline. But this does mean that this game might not really cater to like people who really enjoy like the traditional farming sim or used to like the traditional cozy game. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But let me know what you think about this game, and I'll see you in the next one.